Welcome, everyone. Welcome to a new series that I am launching. And this series is a very special series called Expert Interviews with Ken. This is a series where I basically interview other people who are experts in their own fields, whatever their profession is, and we get a chance to hear their story and what it is they're doing for people. So with that, let's dive into today's guest on Expert Interviews with Ken. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Expert Interviews with Ken. And for today's episode, I have a special guest. Her name is Fiona, and she has spent 15 years exploring various jobs before discovering her passion for helping home educating parents achieving a balance between family life and business. And after earning her accreditation as a certified business strategist and partnering with a business success company, she now assists others in starting online businesses that fit around the demands of parenting. Fiona lives in the Scottish borders with her husband and two daughters, and she enjoys walking uninterrupted. She enjoys savoring a full meal, and she also enjoys baking chocolate treats in peace when time allows. I love that, when time allows, of course. Welcome, Fiona. And so let's dive into today's episode. So let me start off by asking, what does home education mean to you? And I want to add a question to that and say, why? Why that? And why that passion? But first, let's go. What does home education mean to you?
Of course. So, home ed to me, it wraps into why as well, but I'll go with what it means to me first. So, basically for me, it means having a choice, not being forced necessarily for your children to do a specific curriculum, and having a choice to educate them the way that you wish. We have our children and we get to choose how we parent them. We get to choose how we raise them for the first 5 years, and then at 5, or certainly here in Scotland, either 4 or 5, suddenly you're expected to send them to school, and you are no longer, I suppose, adequate to be the educator. And home ed for me just means that you have the choice to teach them the way you want, whether that be structured and you do want to follow a curriculum, or whether that means completely unstructured and you do whatever you want, but it's your choice. And again, I mean, school as well, I suppose, is a choice too, but home ed gives you more freedom to make the choices that you want for your children, rather than trusting somebody else to decide what they should or shouldn't be learning.
Mm.
And oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna run straight into the why then. So
Yeah, go for it.
when when my when my daughter was born, it didn't take me very long to realize that I wasn't sure that school was going to be something for her. So I remember I used to sort of be sitting in bed with her in the night. She'd be feeding and stuff, and I'd just be thinking, like, I only have 4 or 5 years with her until she goes to school, or maybe even less if they go to nursery. They get nursery hours at 3 in Scotland, so they can go to nursery from then on a full week, Monday to Friday. And it just felt like not very much time with her. I didn't like the idea of missing out on all that time. Like, once, for us, if she did go to school, I can basically, in my brain, forget about mornings and nights, because to get her out the door would be a rush. To get her home and get her fed and get her put to bed, none of that would be good quality time with her. So that would be 5 days a week where we wouldn't get really good time together, and we wouldn't have like family time. We wouldn't be able to play. We wouldn't be able to just do what we wish to do. And I really just felt like it just didn't feel right to me that to send her to school. And I thought about lots of different things. I thought about the fact that she would have to learn what the school told her she'd have to learn. I thought about the fact about how little time she would be spending outside, how little time she would be spending with us, like I said already. And it just it just didn't sit well with me. Like, it wasn't anything particularly school specific. It was just more to do with the fact that I wanted her to learn the way she wanted to learn. I wanted her to be able to investigate the things she wanted to investigate. I wanted her to be able to follow the subjects that she was interested in. Because for me at school, I didn't do badly at school, but there was a specific subject, maths, for example, that there was a whole year where I didn't do anything because I'd already passed an exam and I wasn't moved up to the next class. And I kind of lost my passion for it. I wasn't interested at all. So when I went back to doing it again, I just didn't learn anything because I wasn't interested. And then when I went back to college later as an adult, I found that I was actually really good at it and it was really interesting. I did really like it. And it was just a real click moment that if you're interested in something, you're going to learn it. So to spend 6 hours, for example, in school in a day, and for 5 of those hours, you're absolutely not interested in anything that's going on. And probably the 1 hour that you are interested is when you're playing and not when you're working or sitting down and learning. Just, it just wasn't right.
Mhm.
I wanted her to be able to learn at her own pace. I wanted her to be able to go outside and do what she wishes. And maybe at some point in time in the future, we may do something more structured, maybe not a curriculum, but depending on obviously what she wants to do when she's older. Universities ask for examinations and stuff like that. So at some point in the future, there may be a situation where we would have to go down a more structured route. But for now, definitely unstructured learning is the route that we want to take. And for us, that means home educating.
I actually think that's awesome. Um, because I think there's so much more that can be learned through a home education, or what we call here in the United States homeschooling. I think there can be a lot more learned. Because honestly, my thoughts on the whole school system is it's nothing but a system to teach children to sit down, shut up, and obey. To put it quite bluntly, I know, but that's the truth of the matter. And, I don't apologize for putting it that bluntly at all. That's because that's exactly what it is. That's the cold, hard truth of it. The school system was formed by a group of people that literally don't have your children's best interest in mind. I'll definitely say that. And secondly, that school system does not teach critical thinking. It does not teach logical thinking. It does not teach making wealth for yourself and finances and solid security finances. The school system teaches sit down, shut up, and just obey. And it teaches you also, it seeds you into a way of thinking of, oh, the 9 to 5 job thing, that's going to be for you. That's what you need to do. You need to go to college and you need to have an education and get a career and all this other stuff. Where for some people that might be something that they want to do, and that might be something that they thrive in and success in. But for the rest of us who, like, for me, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for many, many, many years. That system doesn't work for me. And here's the other thing I'll say too. I was just on another interview with somebody on a show that I co-host with a partner of mine. It's called Total Truth Show. And the guest we had on, we were talking about many different things through that, but I remember through that conversation, that our guest had shared that he never completed high school. He never wanted to complete high school, and all of that. And I remember praising him for that, because honestly, the experience and education that he has, and he's a little older, respectfully, he's a little older. Um, the wisdom, the knowledge and education that he has and he's gotten throughout the years and what he's developed is his own. He is literally self-taught. It is his own. And I have come to realize through many different years, I've come to realize that your experience, your own self-taught education actually turns out it's actually way better than what you would get taught in college or the high school system, junior high system, the school system in general. It's 100 times better because what you're getting with that, in essence, is street smarts as well. And I think that's way more powerful than any school system can ever teach.
Yeah, definitely. I like the school system. It's impossible for them to cater for an individual, and everybody is so, so different that the only way that they can make it work is to do a curriculum that's, I suppose, perfect for some people. Maybe, I don't know, say take a class of 30, maybe 5 of those people will thrive on that curriculum and learn loads, but that still leaves 25 other children without very much direction and without very much to learn. And the fact that those children might potentially have to fit themselves into a mold to get through the education system is not something that I want my daughters to have to go through. I don't want them to have to change who they are as a person to fit in. I don't want them to have to, well, learn stuff that they're not interested in. I don't want them to feel like to get far in life, you must memorize all this stuff so you can regurgitate it in an exam, so you can
Hmm.
get a grade to go somewhere that you've been told you should go to next. I was speaking to one of my friends the other day. Her son has just started high school, and he'd come home telling his mum that he at school had been told, like, to start thinking about, I mean, he's in first year at high school, so that we're talking over here 12, 13 years old, and he'd been told at school to start thinking about what sort of subjects he might want to take in the next few years, because the subjects he would take in the next few years would determine what he would do at college and university. And he was like, the school had given him the impression that that was all there was to do after he left school, and his mum had to sit down and explain to him that there was many more options than just
Hmm.
going to college or university, that he could get a job, he could start his own business, he could get a job for a few years and then go to college and university if he wanted to, or he could, like, there's just so, he could go on a gap year. There's so many opportunities and so many options that the schools don't necessarily talk to the children about, because, and I'm sure it's probably something to do with the statistics for them, because it looks good for the school depending on how many children go to university and college. That's sort of where their statistics lie. Their statistics don't lie with who goes into employment or who goes on to have a successful business, because you can't really put numbers on that. But yeah, they just, it's all sort of fixed towards a specific pathway that, like you said, ends up in a 9 to 5 job at the end of the day, and that just doesn't fit everybody. It might fit some people and that's fine, but I would probably say it possibly doesn't fit the majority. I don't know how many people I speak to that can't wait for Friday because it's the end of the working week and they get to have the weekend. And it's not just that they're like, they just because they're not at work. It's most of the time because they really don't like it, and they've been stuffed into this system that they don't want to be part of, and they don't like, I don't even know that a lot of people even realize that there's another way to do it, because it's just so ingrained in us from being in school that that's the way it works. I mean, if you start at 4 years old going to school every day, Monday to Friday, for exactly the same times, and you just follow that on into adulthood, you like, for me, I didn't ever consider that starting a business would be an option. It took me until, I mean, I'm 32, nearly 33. It only took me till the beginning of this year to really, well, maybe 2 years ago, to really start thinking that that would actually be a viable option for me. It was never something that was discussed at school. It was never something that was talked about or an option. So it just didn't cross my mind until I was like meeting new people and seeing that other people were doing it, that's something I could actually do. It felt like something that other people did, but not me,
Mm.
because it just wasn't something that was on my radar.
100%, and as you were talking, like I was just like, yeah, see there's the pattern right there. So they go to school for what? How many hours? What?
Six,
Yeah,
six
it's
and a half.
6.5 hours, and they're taught the skills to obey for that time. And then they get out, and what do? They go into a job and kind of pretty much do the same thing.
Yeah, they do.
Who wants that for their life? I mean, honestly, just like you were saying, who the heck wants that for their life? I mean, and again, granted, there are people out there where sure that works for them. They're happy. Maybe they've landed a phenomenal job that they are totally happy in and stuff like that. And that stuff does happen. So I'm not saying anything against those people. But there's a large majority of us that no, we're not happy with that. But that's what we've been bred and trained to do all the way through school and into present day. And then what happens? And then you reach what, 65? You maybe have 10, 15 years of your life left of retirement to enjoy. What what the hell kind of life is that? Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days a week of enjoyment, working towards your 10 to 15 years when essentially you could be doing that from the beginning. Like I would hope, I don't know what will happen in my children's future, and hopefully by doing home education they will learn to make their own choices based on what they want. And ultimately I want them to do what they want to do, but I want them to know that they've got a choice. So if they did choose, for example, to go into a corporate 9 to 5 job, I would hope that the education I've given them, I would still be comfortable because I would know that they had thought that decision through and made that decision specifically for them. But
Hmm.
I would really like it if they just would continue the life they have now, which is a life predominantly of freedom. Like we get up in the morning and there's a couple of days a week that we have something specific that we go to, whether it's a group or there's a breastfeeding support group that I run on a Friday, any of those things that they're specific. But predominantly we wake up in the morning and we just decide what we're going to do on that day. Like it might be meeting up with friends, or it might be going to something that I know is on, or like a lot of days we would just go out for a walk to the woods, or we would go to the beach and just mess about in the sand and just stay for as long as we want. And like people might think that that's not really setting them up for real life, but what actually is real life? Like real life isn't necessarily the same for everybody. Like
Hmm.
life for me, like it's taken me a long time to get to a point where I'm happy to just do that without any. I mean, we have small routines within our day, like when we get up and stuff, but without much structure to our general lives. Like it's taken me a long time to realize that that's what works best for me, because I've always been used to having like a structure and having a timetable and doing things at this time and that time. And now that we're not doing that, it's just a lot more peaceful. Like we still have all the normal like parenting child friction, shall we say.
Hmm.
We still have times where they don't want to do what they're told, and they don't want to do this and they don't want to do that, but we just work through it. I don't ever force them to do anything they don't want to do, but at the same time there are some things that they will have to do that they don't want to, and that is just part of life. but
Yes.
but that's what they're learning things, that they're learning, number one, that they have a choice in things, and they're learning, number two, that they also have, I can't actually remember what number two was, but the main one, the most important one, is that they have a choice in what they do. And oh yeah, and number two, that sometimes they will have to do things that they don't like going to the dentist, for example,
Hmm.
or coming home because the sun has gone down and we literally can't stay here any longer because I can't see anything, or me knowing that they're tired and them telling me that they're not, but I can see, like those sort of things. It's more like guiding them. It's like me explaining to I'll use the tiredness one as an example because it is quite a good one. So at the moment I'm doing a lot of time with them, questioning with them in the evenings, like when I can see that they're getting tired, and I know when they're getting tired, but they haven't quite necessarily made the connection with their own bodies that they're getting tired yet. They've not learned that, and it's my job to guide them to realize when that's happening. So if I can see that they're getting tired, or they come to me in the evening and they say they've got a sore head, which is what my daughter normally happens to my daughter when she's feeling tired. I'll be saying like, well, do you think maybe that you're tired? Do you think your body's telling you it's time to go to bed? And we just call it charging, like time to go and charge your body for tomorrow. Because if your head's getting sore now, that's probably a sign that you're ready to go to sleep.
Mm,
And like they're learning that slowly, bit by bit, that when they feel tired. And my youngest daughter is actually quite good. She if she's feeling tired in the day, she'll say, I need a rest, and she won't sleep, but she'll go and lie down on the couch and she'll suck her thumb and look around and just like have some chill time. And it's good. It's nice to see that what I'm doing is having some sort of effect on them and they're getting it. But I just think these important life skills, like listening to your own body and eating good food and just like finances, like they're really interested in money at the moment. I don't think I learned about money until way after I went to school. Like the first, I think on my 18th birthday, I got a letter through the post with a credit card and I had no idea what it was. And thankfully I didn't start using it or anything like that. But I can easily see how you would do if you didn't really understand what a credit card was. You would rack up a whole load of debt and you wouldn't even realize you'd done it. But they're showing a lot of interest in money at the moment. So we've decided to get them money boxes and to give them a little bit of money each week that they can either save or spend but like I just want them to have that sort of relationship with real life things so that when they are adults, it's not a massive shock to the system. When I came out of school and I got a job and then a year and a half later, sort of, I moved out of where I was living with my grandparents and it was really hard for me to sort of get used to. I mean, the budgeting part was okay. My brain works quite well with budgeting. Like I could make the plan, but I didn't necessarily put all the monies in the right places. I would pay my bills, but then what I had left, it was really very much feast and famine. Like beginning of the month when I got paid, I'd spend, and then I'd spend 2 or 3 weeks at the end of the month waiting till the next paycheck instead of pacing myself with what I had left. And I don't want that for them. Like I want them to have learned that naturally throughout their lives so that when they do come to being independent and being on their own, which they claim now they never will be, but of course they will be. They say they're going to
yeah.
stay with me forever. But when they do that, I want them to be able to just do it like it's natural to them. I don't want them to have to learn that and look it up and research it. Like those sort of things. I mean, there are lots of things they will learn and research, and that's up to them. But those sort of basic life skills are things that I want them to just know.
100%. There's so much in there to unpack, just the fact that you want them to have real experience. You don't want them to just be stuck and in front of like some kind of textbook. I mean, those times are important to educate and to, but having the real on hands life experience, you are basically raising thinkers. You're raising people, you're raising kids that are going to be able to think for themselves and are going to be able to maneuver and walk through life and make real educated real decisions through life. Through what? Through real experience. And that's what you're providing them. That's what a school system cannot provide them, is that real experience. And so I wanted to ask the question, do you lean towards any particular home education style, or do you just kind of go with the flow and kind of do you have like a little bit of a structure?
Yeah, so this is where I don't necessarily take issue with it. I just find that it kind of goes back to it kind of sways a little bit back towards the whole like putting things in a box and you do it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. So, like, if I was pushed and I had to say what our style was, I would say that we lean more towards unschoolers. So we don't follow any sort of specific curriculum or structure. But I don't like to put a label on it. Like you said, we're more go with the flow. And quite often I'll see stuff online that says like someone will be asking for advice, for example, about what they should be doing with home ed, and then people obviously all follow different people who all follow different styles, all think that their style is the right way, and they'll all give their advice on what they think. But the whole point of it, like I said at the beginning, the why, sorry, what it means to me. Like the whole point of it is that you get to choose what works best for your family. So if a structured approach with workbooks and specific time set aside for learning works for your family, then that's the choice you should make. And if an unstructured approach is what works for your family, or even a mix of both, like you might have 3 children or 2 children who have completely different learning styles, and one might have to do a more structured approach to learn and the other might not. Like it really depends, and that's what's so good about it as well, is it's really a choice. And like you can personalize it for yourselves and personalize it for your family. And so the I suppose some people do like to be able to label it to say that they're doing something specific, but I personally don't really want to put a label on it, only because I think that what we're doing now might verge more towards unschooling, but then in the future, it like my eldest daughter, for example, she does like to do like workbook type activities. Like we get sticker books and stuff, and she'll choose to do
Mm.
them on her own. And she really enjoys like being able to do like an actual sticker book and follow a maze, or like I can see her in the future really. She's actually got a little reading writing book thing, and she likes to go and do the pages in that and do the letters and write the words and stuff. And so in the future she might really enjoy that. But so I wouldn't want to say like I am an unschooler and I'm only ever going to do it this way if she is going to lead herself down a more structured path, and then I might feel like we're doing it wrong if I've put myself into a label and put myself into a box. And if people want to do that, that's fine. But for me personally, I find that if I've decided I'm going to do something, I will then find it quite hard to veer away from that.
Mm.
If naturally that's so, I would rather just take a, I don't even know what you would call it. I'm not going to make up a label for it, but like just a child-led approach, like to see what they like, what their learning styles are, like how they like to learn, what they want to learn about, and just kind of follow them. And so yeah, go with the flow is really more of my style.
That's amazing. It sounds like you actually might have a daughter that's going to become a writer or even an artist.
Artist, yeah, she always tells me that she's going to be an artist. She loves to draw.
That's
She
awesome.
loves to paint. She loves anything crafty. She makes all sorts of things out of egg boxes and milk cartons and all sorts of things. And yeah, that's also something that if she was to be in a school environment wouldn't necessarily be catered for as much as she would like it to be. Like she would like to spend the majority of her time doing things like that. But in school, obviously, budgets or whatever, they're not put really towards art things. They're more put towards the academic studies. And so that's another plus for home ed.
Definitely. And you know, the other thing I was thinking of is, think about this. A lot of entrepreneurs are creators. They're creative. They have creative gifts. I mean, I know that's something that I like to do. I have to be careful not to get stuck behind the scenes just creating. I got to remember that I need to be in front and, leading and getting in front of people and not backstage doing all this creation. Oh, this would be great to create, and that would be great. But that is what I love doing. I love, going on Canva and playing with different things on my brand colors and putting different things in different spots and stuff like that. Some things that I do are better than others, but I like the creativity part of it. And a lot of entrepreneurs today are creators and they're very creative. And so, I don't know what's in store for your daughter, but I'm just kind of like giving you a hint. It sounds like you might have a entrepreneur in the making there.
Yeah, I would love it. I would absolutely love it if she would grow up and be an entrepreneur and build something that she really loves and that she works around her life. Like that's for me, that's what it's all about. Like I want them to be able to go out and do exactly what they want to do without feeling any guilt, without feeling like they're doing something wrong, without feeling like they're not following like societal expectations. I just like I just I don't want them to feel under pressure from the outside world to do things a certain way. Like I want them to feel comfortable enough in themselves to do what they wish to do and to make the life that they want to live without having to be pressured to do something a different
Mm.
way.
Mm. Just amazing. Now, with speaking about the possibility of your daughter becoming an entrepreneur, That kind of leads me into another question here. How do you manage home education and starting your own business? How did you manage that?
Yeah, so once it was it's a long and continuing road really. So once I decided we were gonna home educate, I pretty much since then have been thinking over different business ideas. I It was quite obvious I would need to do something from home. I wouldn't be able to go into a normal job. And let's face it, all the jobs I've had before, I'm not particularly good at staying in a job for a very long time. I get bored quite quickly and move on. So maybe the employment is just not for me. But yeah, so it became quite apparent that I would need to do something working from home for myself. So there was all sorts of different things that I tried, like making some worksheets, doing this, but it never really, nothing really ever caught on. And it was at the beginning of this year. I'd been doing a few like sewing, making bears and stuff for people, like for my friends and stuff. Like people would quite often ask me to make things if babies were being born and they needed presents for people and stuff. And so I was trying to think of ways to be able to like do that, but also um make more money from it. I didn't really make much. It wasn't a proper business, but it was thinking along those lines. And that kind of led me to online businesses, because the only way to make more money out of that would be to do something online. And the more I looked into it, I was just out on Facebook or just on Google and stuff, and you know how it pings up stuff that you'd be interested in. So anyway, on Facebook, I found a post from someone whose group I was in about a course that one of their friends was running, and I joined that course and I learned a lot about online business. And from there, everything just kind of like snowballed really. Like I got my ideas. I knew I wanted to help home educating people. I knew I wanted people to have the freedom to home educate and to be able to, like, my husband is from Lithuania, so we want to spend a lot of time between two countries. I don't want my children to miss out on another culture because I have to
Mm.
stay here to work. So I knew it would have to be an online business. I knew it would have to be something I could take with me. And I just didn't even know that world existed. Like I said, like at school you weren't taught that you could have a business online, or you could take a business with you, or you could travel and have a business. So once I found that out and I knew it was happening, I could see other people making it happen. Like I really wanted the same thing. So, and I wanted other people to be able to do the same thing too. So it made sense for me to help other home educating parents to be able to to be able to run their own businesses so that they can live their lives on their terms as well, the way they want to. So that's when I partnered with the Business Success Company, and here we are now. I am here to help people. I'm here to help them build a business and at the same time build my own business so that we can live the life we want, essentially. And in terms of managing it with home education, that is tricky. I'm not going to lie, it's hard work. Um, I spend a lot of time trying to do tasks during the day. Thankfully for me, I know a lot of other people might not have this luxury, but my children naturally go to bed around 7 o'clock, somewhere between 7 and 8. So I do get a chunk of evening where I can actually sit down and specifically do work. But especially at the moment when I'm starting and I'm building, like it's literally all of my free time is spent on the business, and that's fine. Like it's actually quite like at the moment so far it feels like me time. So before I would just put them to bed and then watch telly, and I would just feel like my whole life revolved around being a parent and being a mum. And now I'm doing something and I'm building something, and I've actually got like I feel like I've got another purpose other than just the children. And although they are a lot to do with the decision and a lot to do with why I'm doing it, it still is something that I'm doing for myself and not just for them.
Mm.
So it really helps me to sort of to visualize the life that I want to have. Really helps me to keep going because I know what I'm working towards. Sorry. I know what I'm working towards. And even though during the day they might be around and they might be, I mean, I do try and get work done during the day, but sorry, I'm just going to take a drink.
No, go for it.
sorry, yeah. So even though during the day they're around and they interrupt me and they like sometimes we might have a falling out because I'm trying to do something and they can't wait 2 seconds for me to finish what I'm doing. But like little things I can get done during the day, I get done. And then bigger things like having calls with people when I don't want children trying to jump on me, I can do in the evening. And it's just that like it's kind of it's just once you get the idea in your head of what you want, it's and you know that that's what you really want and you can see it and you can feel it and you know what it's going to be like once you get there. It just makes it so much easier to keep going. Like there are some days when I'm like, oh, this is just such hard work. Like I'm not getting any time to myself. I'm not getting any time to relax. And there's kind of ways around it. Like so if I know I need to do a specific training or something, like there's nothing to say I can't take my laptop to the bathroom and watch that training in the bath. Like I can relax at the same time as doing those things. Like it doesn't have to be like like you're working or you're not working. Like you can find ways to do it like to work around it. And I don't know, like if you're going out for a walk, for example, if I needed time to clear my head, I might go for a walk in the evening, but I would use that time to plan like what I was going to do next, like what's my next move. It doesn't like I can do both things at the same time. I don't have to be like I'm never very good at meditating. Like I've tried it before. My brain doesn't do it. Like it can't. It's just like it's just full of all sorts of things going on. So for me to be able to walk and think is quite good to me to give me a bit of rest time while
Right.
also really resting.
It's funny. It's like on it's so funny how it happens too. So uh, further thinking ideas on my business, different things like that. It's so funny how when I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm trying to think of an idea, there's times where it just doesn't come and I'm just like, oh, I can't think of that. And then later on during the day, towards the evening, when I get in the shower, I'm in the shower. I don't have a recording device with me or anything like that. And all of a sudden, these ideas are just popping in my head. And I'm just like, I need something to record this moment so that I can remember when I get out of the shower. You know, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's amazing how like different things like that. It doesn't have to look like some kind of like in the box thing, is basically what I'm saying. Um, you could be like another thing. A lot of times I'm in the middle of my routine at the gym and I'll have thoughts and I'll be like, that's a great idea. I should create that. And I need to add that in and I need to do this and da 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 da. And it doesn't always happen when you're sitting at the desk. It doesn't always happen when you're in the office, if you will. It doesn't always happen that way. And I don't think entrepreneurship is this box thinking that you need to be in front of your computer all day and just be working like that all day. It can look different. Like you said, you can be in the bathtub, and you can have your laptop, just don't have it plugged in. You can have your laptop right there with you watching a training or even, you know, um, you got the record button hit and you're just spewing thoughts that you've got going on for the next day and kind of like building your agenda and stuff like that. And yeah, two things: don't have it plugged in, and don't let your laptop fall in the water.
No, don't. Be
Um,
very careful.
yes, but yeah, it doesn't have to be, a boxed way of thinking. Even there, back last year, I took a day. It was just a complete me day, and I went to the beach. And then later on that day, I was sitting on a wall like separating the sidewalk from the beach. And there was a nice portion on that wall where you can sit on top of it. And I remember journaling the last part of the day. Sure, there were things that I wrote down about that as well, but there were also some things I wrote down about vision for what I wanted for my business and stuff like that. Again, I wasn't in the office, I wasn't sitting in front of the computer, but I was also, I'm an entrepreneur. That's the way I think. That's the way it's designed to be. Um, so yeah, it doesn't have to be like in the box, you're sitting at the desk and this is your workstation. That doesn't have to be like that.
No, definitely not. And another thing, like I quite often, if I feel like I've got a task to do, that I'm maybe worried about, or I don't know what to do with, or I'm stuck with it. Like quite often, if I start my, like if the children have gone to bed and I'm just not getting into what I'm doing, quite often if I find like a maybe a short podcast episode with someone talking about that specific
Mm.
um, topic or something, if I listen to that first, it kind of like gears me up to get going. Like, because like me listening to that will get my thoughts going and making me, I'll be thinking where I can apply it in my own stuff. And it just gives me a bit of momentum to keep going and to start up the task that I really don't want to do, because I'm a very bad procrastinator. I'm
Mm.
also a very bad planner, which is a term I've recently learned, where I'm just planning out everything so I don't have to do any of the actual work. But yeah, that's really helping me to get through those blocks of like, oh, it's too hard, or oh, I can't do this with the children, or oh, this task seems like it's too difficult for me. Like I can't, like I can't explain how much like self-development type stuff I've been through since I've been started, like since I started this business and since I've started having ideas about business and going in it. Like it really is like, it's, I feel like a different person.
You should. And you're not the first entrepreneur to struggle with those things, the planning and staying in planning mode behind the scenes, And yeah, no, been there, done that too for me, I've had to learn the balance through that and to make sure, it's like, hey, and especially after you start seeing momentum happen in your business, you want to get all over that and you want to keep that momentum going. You don't want to
Yeah.
drop it. And so I've recently had that experience with myself, coming out of it was a 2 or 3 months ago, I came out of a 5-day challenge that I actually joined with my coach. We both joined it at the same time. And it was by Myron Golden. Look him up on YouTube. Really amazing guy. He's got tons of great stuff. We went through his 5-day challenge, and I felt like during that challenge, I built some momentum in my business. And then my coach and then he reminded us, and then my coach reminded me as well at the end to not let that momentum go. So just rode the wave, rode the wave, rode the wave, rode the wave. All of a sudden, I ended up building my boot camp that I've got running now. That is gaining so much traction and everything else. The momentum is keeping going. And and through that, I've been very careful not to get stuck backstage, because I want to remain front stage now with the
Mhm.
momentum that I've got moving. And so, yeah, but all that to say, the whole struggle with planning and being backstage creating, every entrepreneur goes through that. You're no different. And so I just encourage you, learn to find the balance through that. And I know you will. You just have to stick with it. Hey, I launched my brand and company 4 years ago. I've been at this, my own brand for 4 years now. I've been an entrepreneur for many, many years and different ventures and different things like that. And but 4 years ago, I finally planted my feet in the ground and decided, you know what? This is where I'm planting my feet. Mastery Weight Loss is me. That is my brand. I am going to stay here until I get my brand off the ground. I'm not going anywhere else. There's no shiny objects. There's no butterflies. Oh, look at the cute little butterfly over there. There's no like, oh, there's a squirrel. I'm going to go this direction. You know, there's none of that, and I have stand true. Has it been a smooth ride? No. I'd be really honest with you. There have been some very frustrating, very discouraging moments through that. It's been a roller coaster. But all of that has gotten me to where I am today, and I'm grateful. I am grateful for all those experiences because they all helped me grow as an entrepreneur. So that's what it's about. Um, in wrapping up, I'd like to ask you this one question. What would you tell other parents? Three things, three main things you would tell other parents that might be on the fence on whether the traditional school system or homeschooling. or home education, as you would put it, what are three main things you would tell parents on the fence like that, thinking about it, that would maybe help them to make an educated choice on whether the school system or home education?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I would think about is, or the first thing I would encourage them to think about is, I don't know how to put it in a nice way. Is like,
That blunt sometimes is the best way.
yeah.
So you
So
just
like,
put it out there.
do you want to be um stuck in a sort of 9 to 5 scheduled routine where essentially a school system is in charge of your diary and your time, because you can only go away on school holidays? I don't know what it's like over there, but over here, you, not in Scotland, but in England, you can get fined for taking your children out of school during school term to
Mm.
go on holiday and spend time with your family, which is where they're probably going to learn a lot more. Do you want to be stuck in that sort of structured system, or do you want to be free to choose the best path for your family? Do you want to be free to do what you want when you want, essentially, like obviously within restraints of whatever your life looks like, your work or things like that? The second thing I would say is, do well, to think about is, do you want your child to have the opportunity to grow as themselves and learn as themselves, or do you want them to have to potentially force themselves into a mold to fit in with everybody else, which I know some people think is a good idea, but it didn't feel good for me growing up, and I don't think it would feel particularly good for my children if they're anything like me. And then the third thing is, it's less of a thought and more of a consideration, is that normally the first thing, or the first thing that people say against home education, is that your children won't be socialized.
Mm.
It's like it's a big talking point.
Hmm.
But if you think about it, whether, so if they go to school, they spend all, well, 5 days a week for 6 hours a day in a classroom with 29 other children exactly the same age as them and exactly the same maturity level. And when they're which might be fun for them because they can be around peers their own age, or if when they're home educating, if you're just, as long as you don't keep them in the house and don't do anything with them, as long as you're going out and living your life, think about all the different types of people they're going to socialize with in that situation. So for example, my children on a normal day-to-day basis will socialize with anyone from the age of newborn all the way up to, well, 80s, 90s. Like, we're going to see someone of every age group almost every day, at least for a minute or two, whether that's going to the shop and speaking to the checkout people, or just speaking to people that pass in the shop. So we come from a small town, so we're quite lucky in that respect. We're always bumping into people, so they know loads of people in our town, like they, or at least recognize them. They might not know their names, but like that kind of socialization, it might not be what society is telling you is the right socialization, but like it's so much more beneficial for their lifetime. Like I have never in my adult life ever worked in a workplace where every single other person there is the same age as me, and
Mm.
that's what it's like in school. They're spending all their time with people who are exactly the same age as them. So like, but that's not, again, not what it's like in the real world. Like, even if you did follow the path of going into a 9 to 5 job, you're still not going to be in a room with 10, 20 other people exactly the same age as you. There's going to be people who are older, there's going to be people who are younger, there's going to be people in the middle. Like, it's never going to be that situation. So I would take that into consideration as well. And this is just maybe to ease anyone's worries on socialization, is that, like, they're going, like, as long as you're not keeping them in a box, they're going to socialize no matter what.
Mm.
Like, it'll just be part of their normal life.
And I think there's a couple other things that I just, one or two things that I just want to add. I just want to remind everybody here that, you know what, honestly, what I see is I see that Fiona here stands for freedom and power. That's what I stand for. That's what my brand stands for. Truth as well is what my brand stands for. And I will get into that towards the end of this episode. But here's what I want to say. When I said the statement earlier in this episode that the school system is literally designed to teach you to sit down, shut up, and obey, that wasn't just a statement for those of you who are listening to this. That was not just a statement. That was a cold, hard fact. It was designed that way. And so, for those of you thinking about putting your children, if you're on the fence and you're wondering what's going to be best for my child, I would invite you to take that into consideration because that is not freedom and power to me, the school system. It is not. Um, I know as a kid, I went through the school system at a time and age where they did not know how to handle truly, authentically ADHD kids. Now I know ADD and all that, all those other, it's thrown out a lot nowadays, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I was legitimately hyperactive and attention deficit disorder. Legitimately as a kid. I even was on Ritalin for a while and all that other stuff. The school system didn't know what to do with me. It was at a time where they didn't know what to do with children of my type. And so I was always shoved in different classroom, handicapped classrooms, mentally retarded classrooms. I was always shoved in all this. And my parents did the best they could to try to keep up with that and fight for where I needed to be. But I remember that as a kid, and I remember graduating high school. I graduated high school because I had enough credits. It was a time and an age where they didn't have a lot of the requirements that they do today. So I actually graduated high school, never took a science class, never passed a science class, never went past pre-algebra. I never took a foreign language. There's a lot of people today, they're just like, "What? How in the world did you graduate then?" I had enough credits. I took extra stuff, extra credit classes to get the credits that I needed to graduate, and I graduated. It was like the best day of my life getting out of there because I hated that system. I hated it. I didn't know everything I know about that system now then, but I know that I was not happy there. Junior high and high school life for me were not the happiest years for me. Not at all. And when I got out of high school is when I felt like my life actually started. And so, I mean, it's just a little bit about my story. I really didn't mean to share all that, but kind of came out. Um, the school system is not freedom, and it wasn't designed to give freedom. And the most literal aspect, it was not designed to give freedom. It was designed by individuals, I think, was it the Rockefellers? Yeah, it was the
Um,
Rockefellers that designed the school system. They specifically designed it the way they did. Very specifically designed it the way they did to teach kids to obey, to teach kids not to be able to think for themselves, to dumb down society. I recently bought a book, and here's the title of the book: Mass Weapons of Instruction. Instruction with an I, not destruction. Although that would have been a great title too. Um, but Mass Weapons of Instruction. That says a lot.
oh yeah.
Um, so again, I invite you guys to really consider what you're sending your kids into. I do wholeheartedly support homeschooling, home education, very much so. And so bringing Fiona into this interview was a no-brainer to me when I had the pre-interview with her and I had the chance to hear her story, kind of fired me up. I was just like, "You're standing for what I stand for, freedom and power, you know?" And that's part of my brand. My brand, it does have a patriotic part of it. That's why my brand colors are red, white, and blue. That's why in the background you've got red, or you've got red there, you've got blue there, you know. I don't know, find white somewhere, but that's my brand colors because that's what I stand for. And so just something to consider, guys. Any last thoughts, Fiona?
Um, yeah, just that I agree. I don't think the school system is set up to support people to think. I think there was a quote. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something to do with we want workers, not thinkers,
Mm,
because that's what you get the. I mean, yeah, working for someone else to make money just isn't isn't for me. I don't want it to be for my children, unless of course they're happy with that. But yeah, I want them to be free thinkers. I want them to think for themselves. I want them to come into situations in life as adults and be able to think through it in a logical way to figure out whether what they're seeing is right or wrong. Like, I want them to have a life of freedom, just like I want me to have a life of freedom. And yeah, I'm going to work as hard as I can to get that. And people shouldn't be afraid to want that. They shouldn't be afraid to want something different. Like, it's not wrong to want a different way. And if you feel like home education or starting your own business or anything that's sort of power driven, freedom driven, if that's what you want, I think everybody should go out and get it. Do what you think is going to make you the happiest and what's going to work the best for your family. And don't
100%.
don't think about what anyone else thinks about that.
100%. 100%. Now, Fiona, and kind of wrapping things up here, we've got so they can connect, people can connect with you through www.instagram.com/, what is that, underscore
Underscore Fiona Sim.
Fiona Sim. That's F as in Frank, I as in ill, O as in Oscar, N as in Nancy, A as in um
Apple.
amazing, S as in Sam, I as in ill, M as in Mary. Um, and that's her Instagram handle. The link to connect with her on Instagram will be included in the descriptions below. And as well as Fiona, I know you've got a free gift for people, which will the link to that will also be in the description below. But why don't you talk a little bit about this free gift and what it is?
Yeah, of course. For any other home educating parents or parents in general who want to be able to build their own business, start their own business, and um, to help them live the life on their terms, yeah, it's a free guide, 10 secrets to growing a business, and it's just 10 top tips to for you to think about and to help you and guide you if starting a business is something that you're interested in.
Amazing, amazing. So, on behalf of the audience, thank you for that free gift. That is just absolutely
Very
amazing.
welcome.
So, you may have heard me allude a little bit on this show about my brand and company, Mastery Weight Loss the way it's supposed to be. That's actually my slogan, weight loss the way it's supposed to be. And so, I would like to, ending the show, a little bit about myself. I'd like to speak to the audience here. So, my journey, I have lost 62 and a half pounds, and I've been able to keep that off for 6+ years now, all without a diet and having it be sustainable. It's just part of who I am. I don't think about it. And so that's exactly what I teach other people how to do. So not just how to lose the weight, but how to keep it off and keep it off for good without a diet. I am unapologetically a faith-based weight loss coach, and I empower my clients to master their weight and health goals through a 7-part framework and applying Christian principles that ignites them to achieve mastery in sustainably keeping the weight off for life once they've lost it. And again, that's all without a diet. And so, if you would like to dive deep in with me on that and find out how you can actually sustainably keep the weight off once you've lost it, because you know what, honestly, anybody can go out there and lose 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. How many people do you know have been able to keep it off? Mm, that is a very, very powerful question. So, what I have done is I've created a little mini boot camp. And in this boot camp, I'm literally giving away my 3 secrets to be able to break free from sugar addictions, break free from snacking issues, break free from hunger issues, break free from the losing, gaining, losing, gaining, losing, gaining cycle. Um, and finally be able to keep your weight off for life in just 3 short one-on-one sessions with me. You're going to, one, be equipped with an empowered mindset. You're going to, two, be equipped to spot the food industry lies and avoid the common pitfalls. Lastly, and also very important, number three, you are going to be equipped to spot the deceptive marketing that these companies are using on you and be able to make more informed choices with your food. What do I mean by that? Give me just a second to explain that. There's a lot of people out there that might be thinking, heartfelt thinking that they are making healthy choices and really making an effort. And then behind the scenes, they're not getting the progress that they want. The scale isn't moving in the direction they want. They're stuck. Maybe they're in a plateau, whatever. Well, what most likely is happening is you might be simply buying into the marketing that these companies are using, thinking you're buying something healthy when in reality, you're really not. And that's also what I teach you to see past. So much so, one of the first clients that came through my boot camp said to me on the last part of her last session, now I'm excited to go to the grocery store. Who says that, right? I don't, and I know all the things. But she was empowered enough to say that and actually want to go to the grocery store. And so that's just one of many testimonies I have through my boot camp. So, and all of this is in just a short 2.5 week span. And it is only $75, you guys. And to let you to give you an insight on just how valuable that is for only $75, a friend of mine who I went through a mastermind with, we both went through a mastermind together. She was asking me the other day about my boot camp, and I gave her an insider look. I spent 7 to 10 minutes on a Zoom call with her. I showed her the PDFs, the booklets that come with everything, and all of that. And I said, at the end of that, I said, Daniela, how much would you expect to spend on this? And she's like, $1,000. Well, you know what? Imagine her surprise when I told her it was only $75. So, you guys, it's a no brainer. So you'll also find the link to my bootcamp in the description. And you will also find in the description a link to book an appointment with me on my calendar, a discovery call. Give me a chance to get to know you better and vice versa. And maybe you've got some questions about my bootcamp. Schedule in that discovery call. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. And yeah, let's connect. So I would love the opportunity to be able to connect with you. So, with that, in concluding today's episode, one last time, Fiona, do you have any last words?
Freedom.
I love it. I love it. Yes, freedom and power. What I mean by power, you guys, just to give that a little bit more clarity, is I'm also about giving the power back to the people. And Fiona is giving the power back to her children, and she's letting her children keep that power and freedom. So, with that, you guys, that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much, Fiona, for coming on today's episode and allowing me the chance to interview you. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. All right, you guys will have a great rest of your day and evening, depending on where you are in the world and what time you are listening to this. And I will talk to you on the next episode. Talk to you guys later.